What is up, Soul Fam? It's Sandal from Substance Over Style, and welcome to a new video. So I'm in the garden today. We're filming on the phone because I've been having... Sorry, I'm going to go on a little rant right now because I'm very frustrated with Fuji at the moment. Obviously, y'all know I usually record my videos on my SLR, which is the Fuji X-T100, which I love because it has a little flip-out screen so I can watch myself while I'm filming. But yeah, it's just my new laptop is not reading it, and then I had to contact Fuji to see what's going on with that, and they took like 3 days to get back to me, and they only got back to me after I sent them a second follow-up email. Asked me a bunch of questions and then took another 2 days to respond. And then when I followed up again saying, hey, can I get like an answer to the questions? I kind of need to like use my camera. They were like, oh, we already replied. I was like, what the fuck? So it's taken a whole week and we're still not sorted yet, or like 5 days. And this is what I love about Apple. If I'm having a problem with Apple, I could just contact their customer service then, and their problem is sorted in like 5 minutes. Like they'll talk to you on chat or they'll phone you. Love Apple. Other tech companies need to take note. Like, I'm sorry, the world that we're in right now, you cannot be taking 5 days to sort out somebody's technical issue. That's just completely unacceptable. So yeah, I just wanted to like put Fuji on blast because, you know, I've got companies always asking me to like recommend their products, but yeah, they don't seem to take us seriously when we actually have an issue. So there's that. But yes, I wanted to check in with you guys because are y'all feeling these love wave energies through the Solstice portal? Because I am. So yeah, like it's been a lot. Like I feel like we're going through a massive shift. I feel like, I don't want to say everyone's awake now, but I think slowly everybody, the blinders are slowly starting to fall. And I said this before. Did I not say this before? That, sorry, we're just going to have to work with the train because I'm not even going to be able to edit this. No, I am. I can edit it on my phone. Like, I think awakening, for some people it can be extremely sudden and like a rude awakening or like a spontaneous Kundalini activation, like what happened with me. But I think overall it generally happens in a way where people can handle it, because otherwise people will go crazy. And I do think some people will be going crazy and some people will be having a really difficult time of things and feel like they're going insane. But I do feel like by and large people are slowly starting to realize that something's not right here, and that governments might be a little bit tyrannical. There might be something nefarious happening with this whole transhumanist agenda. The transhumanist agenda is becoming so obviously not a conspiracy theory either. Like, it's just so obvious that it's happening. Yeah, with the whole Neuralink and you know, the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I mean, a lot of people aren't necessarily paying attention to the details of that, but I think a lot of people are seeing, you know, what's happening with AI, and, you know, that technology is like increasing at a rapid rate. I mean, I just go into my supermarket and most of the human checkout counters are now like not being manned by humans. They're just like a screen and you have to do your own scanning. And you know, a lot of this technology is not super responsive. Like, I've seen like major issues happening at the checkout counter where the computer is not reading something properly and just doing something ridiculous, and they do still need humans to man it. So I don't think we need to worry necessarily that we're going to be completely replaced, but I do think that people need to get their shit together. And I did say this, you know, I said this when at the start of 2020 I did I did a video in January 2020 called How to Find Your Purpose in Life. And then I posted about it again on Instagram like last month, reminding people like what I said in that video. I said, listen, like technology is increasing at a rapid rate. Like a lot of these menial jobs that humans are doing, where they're like basically in indentured servitude, are going to be replaced by technology. So you need to get really clear on what you're here to do. And, you know, I'm not saying that you need to like extract yourself completely from the system and no longer have a salaried job, because that isn't for everyone. Some people will start businesses. Not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship. sorry, it stopped recording. I don't know where it cut me off. But I'm saying, no, I don't think necessarily everybody is cut out for entrepreneurship, and not everybody is meant to be a business owner, because if everybody was, then who would be working for the businesses? Like you still need staff, right? So, you know, I still need, you know, I have an assistant who works for me, and actually I'm thinking of hiring a new assistant. Like I'm going to put like out an official like job posting, but if you are, I ideally want it to be somebody who've used this channel. So if you're somebody who is experienced at video editing, particularly VN and CapCut, possibly DaVinci Resolve as well, please contact me, send me your CV. But yeah, I'll put out an official job posting soon, yeah, because I'm looking at hiring another assistant. So yeah, people need people to work for them, like people need employees, you know. But if you're just doing some humdrum job that you're not super passionate about, but it pays the bills, but you're not really like, it's not like you don't feel really passionate about it. Like you're not advancing. If you're not feeling really passionate about it, then you're not going to be competitive, and you know, things are going to get more competitive. You can be easily replaced. Like at the end of the day, people are going to choose to hire the people that are the best at what they do, and who are like the most passionate about it, and who deliver the best results for whatever it is that they're being paid. So think about whether you're actually providing real value to your company. And if you're not, like, really start thinking about like your mission, what you're here to do, like what are you really passionate about, and start moving towards that, and like how you can make money, because it's not just about like being of service. We're also here to make money so that we can be supported. So what I've particularly been seeing in this portal, particularly around like Father's Day and the summer solstice, which was within the same week, is so many Holy Father codes coming in. It's like that, like protection, provision, structure, like that warrior energy, like that whole like, because I think a lot of men are starting to realize, they're starting to wake up and realize that like, nobody's going to get us out of this mess. Like nobody's coming here to rescue us. We have to be the ones to change things. Like, and I think for too long, but even people in the awakened community have been like, oh, the Galactic Federation is working with the white hats, and the light has already won. And this is just, I'm sorry, but this is false light bullshit. Like, we have got to start anchoring in these new systems. We have got to do the work to do this, and a lot of it is going to fall upon the men. A lot of the heavy lifting and the grunt work and establishing systems, establishing structure, which are masculine principles, is going to fall upon the men. Like a lot of the new earth systems that are around, you know, like family, education, healthcare might be, you know, more feminine. But ultimately, look, I'm not saying that it's going to be men who are leading us forward, okay? It's going to be hierogamic. The new earth is definitely going to be about masculine and feminine in balance. But we do need men. We need men fully online, and we need them in their true divine masculine. Like, we need them not being like little betas just sitting around hoping that somebody else is going to take care of this shit. Do you know what I mean? That's where I want to speak to like some of this, you know, the Tate effect, you know, Andrew Tate, and how popular he's become with young men. And I think, you know, initially when I first heard about him, I was just like, oh my God, who the fuck is this guy? Like, I heard about him at a party. Like, this guy, I was at a party with a friend of mine who I met at the marches. And, you know, there was one of the guys there, it was like an older guy. And he said that his son and all his friends are like really, really getting influenced by this guy who's made loads of money from like OnlyFans webcams. And I was just like, oh God, that's depressing. Like, why would somebody look up to that? That's so sad. And it really said something to me about like where the collective masculine consciousness is at. Then I heard Bernard Gunther talking about him. So Bernard Gunther is from the Cosmic Matrix podcast. He's married to Laura Maxwell. I've mentioned them here on this channel before. They you know, they're very awake, you know, and they mentioned I think he mentioned Andrew Tate, and he was just like, listen, loads of people have been getting interested in this guy because of what he's saying. He's really read he's dropping some serious truth bombs, blah, blah, blah. And I'd heard quite a few things about this person at that time. So I just jumped in and said, listen, the guy's a pimp and a pornographer. He's had multiple accusations of this, that, and the other. There's a video of him like whipping some girl, which I now know. I've seen the video where she basically, the same girl in the video says, no, that was just like a little kinky sex game that we were playing. So I've listened to both sides of the story and heard from both sides. And I'll share where I'm at with this whole Andrew Tate phenomenon right now. I was upset that people were just like, okay, they like him because he's dropping some truth bombs, but we shouldn't be giving people cookies and medals for saying what so many other people have been saying for such a long time. I mean, somebody like Mark Passio has been saying this shit for ages. So has David Icke. You know, there's lots and lots of men who have been spitting truth bombs for a long time that are nowhere near as famous as this guy has now become. I don't think it's fair that he should just be able to ride in on their coattails. But now that I've actually listened to some of his long-form content, and I would like to thank Bar Eggman for sending me like I think it was like what's his name? David, or whatever the guy's name is, the Iranian-American businessman, who featured him on like a 5-hour-long podcast. I think they did 2 5-hour-long podcasts actually. I can see now why he's captured the imagination of so many young people, because he doesn't just talk about exiting the matrix and how the system is fucked, but he provides actual solutions. And he's also been able to get himself to a place where he's kind of outside the system, to the point where, you know, they can't really cancel him. Like, they've tried, yes, obviously they seized his social media platforms and then they froze his accounts, but not all of his money is in his name, you know, because that's how the wealthy function. Like, you'll never be able to find out how much a wealthy person is actually worth, because they don't declare everything. So, you know, they can't completely, and the only way that they can completely get rid of him is if they kill him. And let's, you know, hope and pray that they don't. I will speak more about the allegations against him towards the end. So I can see why he's become so popular, because the men that I just mentioned, like Mark Passio, etc., none of them have actually provided like you know, a specific outline on, this is exactly what you do to get out of the matrix. This is exactly what we're going to do to get free. This is exactly how we're going to lead our families out of this mess. And that's needed. Like, he's obviously stepped into a vacuum that was, you know, very, very needed, and he's solving a very important problem. My issue with him is I do think that he's very misogynistic. I don't think that he's integrated his inner divine feminine energy at all whatsoever. He's got that false tyrannical king energy, like when he talks about, you know, every sultan, every king, every emperor throughout history always had consorts. Well, I've spoken about that in previous videos. Please go watch the best one to watch about that is the Dalai Lama Suck My Tongue and the Distortion of the Dakinis, which was like 2 videos back. It's like a false tyrannical, anti-Sophianic, reptilian Anunnaki program, okay? It's suppression of the goddess, suppression of the divine feminine. Now, I don't think that his divine feminine is completely suppressed, because I can see that God is using him in a certain way, and he does genuinely care about the future of humanity and the future of, you know, just people, you know, families in general. I can see that he does. But just, I think he you know, he needs to learn some self-control, because obviously a man in his position does have a lot of access to beautiful women. And I will perfectly acknowledge the reason why a lot of men are like this and are able to get away with this kind of extremely, like, entitled misogynistic behavior is because women allow it. So, you know, while I like what he said about, you know, if you're a man, you're 100% accountable for everything that happens to you. Like, if your woman cheats on you, it's your fault. If your woman leaves you, it's your fault. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, I get that. But I actually teach women the opposite. I don't teach them that everything is a man's fault. I actually teach them that you actually have so much more power than you even realize, and it's in what you tolerate and the kind of men that you choose. And we actually have a lot more power to dictate how, like, how men behave, because, and what men value and what men are guided to. Like, if a woman just allows a man to just, you know, lean back and chill out and go, just go 50-50. Like, he doesn't have to provide for her completely. She can take care of herself because she's an independent woman, and he only has to pay half the bills. And then she has to nag him so that he does half the chores and does half the childcare, which, you know, I don't think, like, with the women I've spoken to, the men in their lives aren't really so good at doing all of that, which is why I would never accept 50-50 in my life. I've done it in the past and it didn't work for me. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. I just think it's definitely not for me. And I think it doesn't necessarily work for relationships. Hi, kitty. If I'm a bit distracted, there's a kitty walking through. Come here. So this cat has been in the garden every single day. I think it lives with us now. If your relationship is coded where you're more in the feminine polarity and your partner's more in the masculine polarity, then, you know, and especially when, you know, you're about to start a family, or you are starting a family and infants are really young, that was, you know, the natural order of things, that men were supposed to provide and protect, and women were supposed to nurture and care for the children. That's just how it works. Now, once children become a certain age, things can move around and shift, because I do think that women are extremely capable, we're extremely intelligent, we're extremely influential, we're extremely powerful, and there's a lot of gifts that we have to offer the world. Like, I never want to be the kind of woman that never works and never has something else that I do. And I do think that it's important that women have some of their own provision. Not that they necessarily have to use that to contribute to the household. It's more just for their own protection, so that we're not going back to the fucking 50s or the dark ages where women had absolutely no financial autonomy and they had to tolerate men stepping out because the man was in complete control of the finances. But the whole thing about men being in control of the finances, it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be that the finances were for the couple. And the woman was supposed to have equal access to those finances as well, because she's also working. She's working to maintain the household. She's working to raise the children. That's actual work. In fact, they've estimated that being a mother is like 2.5 times of what a normal full-time job is. So yeah, she should have complete access to the finances, if not actually just given an allowance of at least 50% of what her husband makes, if not more, depending on who's, you know, making sure that the bills get paid and stuff like that. Obviously, every couple has to decide how they want to do that themselves, but I think actually it's a great thing that, well, I don't want to say it's a great thing. I think it's overall a net positive, which I like that he uses as well, that word, like when he's had to do a lot of interviews where he gets challenged. And I do like how Andrew Tate will go to interviews where the person won't necessarily agree with him, like, because he's comfortable with debating people that have a different opinion. He'll use those words, overall net positive. I'm overall a net positive influence on humanity. And I do agree, because I do find him very energizing and very activating. His energy is very motivational. It made me like get up off my ass and like start, hustling a little bit more and posting more content and being more of service to the world. And actually, like, I'll admit, like, in the 1 hour after I finished watching that interview, I made like, it was less than an hour even, I made £1,000. So I just signed like 2 new clients. So yeah, like I think as long as the people that are listening to him have the discernment to be able to decide for themselves what they think is true, and I do think that many of them do. Like, if you look at who's that other guy, Sebastian Giorgio, who's that like young multi-millionaire, he's like 23 or something, or 24, and he's like on YouTube and talking about how men can make money and all of that stuff. And he's very traditional, he's very conservative, he's very religious, and he's very much about monogamy, like not just for female chastity, but for himself as well. When it comes to the accusations against him, like the trafficking accusations, I've seen the videos where, several of the women that work for him have backed him up. I think he shared it on his Twitter, where they said, listen, there's no victims in this situation. The 2 women that have basically accused him of stuff, they showed video evidence of these girls being out on the street, like filming content, being around the compound, walking in and out of the compound. You could clearly see that these girls were not held against their will. However, I do think that his use of the lover boy method to get girls to fall in love with them and then say, let's become rich together, could be potentially classed as fraud, because it's like breach of promise. And they did say in the news article where he'd been charged that they reneged on promises of like love and marriage and relationship, which is interesting that they're bringing that into a case, because I'm currently reading a book by Professor Judith Reisman. I think it's from the 60s or 70s, and it's called Soft Porn Plays Hardball, and it's basically a breakdown. She did an entire breakdown analysis of Hugh Hefner and looked at how Hugh Hefner was heavily influenced by Alfred Kinsey, who did the reports on, sexuality in the human male and then in the human female, which were deeply, deeply distorted, false pseudoscience, which I've explained in previous videos. If you search my previous videos about Kinsey, there's one that I did talking about Balenciaga and Kinsey. Not only did he didn't, interview like a proper subset of the male or female population. He interviewed mostly like sex offenders, sexual deviants, kinksters, homosexual activists. So that skewed the data. And then when he was doing the reports on female sexuality, he didn't just interview your average, housewife or college girl. He interviewed mainly sex workers. So that also skewed the data. So his reports were deeply, deeply dishonest. But Hugh Hefner loved them, obviously, because he was like, this guy speaking my language, because he was, as a young man, Hefner felt quite constrained by the moral conservative culture at the time, and then read that and went the complete other way, and then started Playboy and just used it to just poison people's consciousness around marriage and around family and around love. And just, please read the book. I'll actually post it in my stories, or DM me on Instagram if you want a free copy. I'll send you a free PDF. My friend George Sanu sent it to me. He's actually I'll link his podcast in there as well. He's going to be talking a lot about like pornography and how it harms the male brain and male consciousness. So he sent that to me. So it's a really, really good read. But in that book, they basically talk about how up until the 1940s, women could sue men, not just sue men, they could prosecute men, they could charge men with breach of promise, i.e. lying to get them into bed, because it was seen as like a violation. It was seen as like almost like a rape, like a robbing of their chastity, because obviously female chastity was prized very highly back then. And like, I understand where people are coming from, where they find that, prizing female chastity can be very repressive. Yes, it's repressive when it strips the woman from her own agency and her own sovereignty over her body and her own autonomy over her body, in an attempt to like control her sexuality by slut shaming if she, chooses to engage in someone who maybe she's not married to or whatever. However, I do think we also really, really need to look at how porn culture and the destruction of the marriage and the war on divine unions has affected female consciousness to the point where we don't regard our own sexuality as sacred. So it's not about, trying to shame female agency around their sexuality or try and control it. It's more just like, you should be fully in control of your own sexual energy and know that it is sacred, and be discerning about who you share it with, and only share it with somebody who's in love and honoring of you. Because there's no such thing as casual sex. Like, sex is literally like a marriage. It literally binds you to somebody. So that's another reason why I don't really like that they did that. Also, I've heard him say things like, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard him say in a podcast that if his girlfriend or his wife or whatever wanted to do OnlyFans, he'd be fine with it as long as he took 8% of the earnings, because she belongs to him. So I don't know if he's doing that with his OnlyFans girls. I think one person who commented on my last video said that he takes 90% of their earnings. So that would also count as extortion, which also comes under trafficking. I think I've seen a video on Abba and Preach where he talked about how he told the girls that some of the percentage of the money was going towards paying tax, and then didn't pay tax, which again, even if that's only 10 or 20%, that's still fraud, and that's still extortion. So that also can count as trafficking. So I don't know the details of the case. I do think that I do think that the accusations against him are politically motivated, because like he said, you know, if you look at how he's been treated compared to like Philip Schofield, and go look at his Twitter because he posted this video. He made a comparison of how he's been treated versus Philip Schofield, who's an actual groomer. Like the boy that he was having an affair with, I think he found him when he was like 10 or 11 years old and actively groomed him. So he's like borderline paedophile. And they just really, really humanized him in the media. They were like, oh, poor you, Philip, you've been so suicidal, haven't you? Oh, Philip's hell and he's devastated. It's just like, no, you need to be fucking accountable for being a fucking pedo and stop being such a fucking groomer. You need to be in jail. Along with his brother, who was recently convicted of actually being a pedophile and molesting loads of girls. So those apples didn't, well, I don't know. Okay, I don't want to say that. Like, I don't know what the parents were about. But look, we know that like there's a lot of this dodgy dealings going on, you know, with the police and the BBC, and a lot of these institutions have been infiltrated by some of these sick fuckers. So yeah, I do think that they've charged him because it's politically motivated, but that doesn't mean that they don't have some dirt on him. They may have some dirt on him, but let's see what happens. I do think that he is being used by God in a powerful way. I love that he has like given his life back over to God. He's converted to Islam, which I think is great. And hopefully the Muslim community can kind of hold him accountable and encourage him to kind of live his life in a more, you know, moral way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't hate the guy, but again, I don't know. Like we don't know what information they have. So, but again, I don't really trust the justice system either. I mean, look at what they did to Julian Assange. I mean, what is Julian Assange in prison for? I mean, he's still in prison. He's in prison because he released the WikiLeaks emails that showed that they illegally invaded Iraq. He's in prison because he, you know, did the Podesta emails dump, which clearly show whatever words I'm not going to say because I want to stay on YouTube, but y'all can go look at those Podesta emails and see what's up. So that's why he's in jail. And I mean, to be honest, it's probably safer that he's in jail because otherwise they might just unalive him. So yeah, let's just pray for Julian Assange. I do hope and I do pray that Andrew Tate does start to unify with his inner feminine principle and starts to like really like hold the divine feminine in reverence within himself and without, and hopefully take all the men that look up to him along with him on that journey. Because yeah, he clearly has some distortions, and I don't think that the accusations against him or the negative views that people have about him are unfounded, okay? Because if he thinks that it's okay for him to step out, or a high value man to step out on his wife, but not for his wife to do the same, then he's just completely deluded. So yeah, that's my views on that. So yeah, just during this portal, just allow those Holy Father frequencies to come in and start activating your inner masculine architecture. This is for both men and women. I'm seeing this happen a lot with women as well. Women who aren't they aren't necessarily on their highest timeline. They're being siphoned either by life circumstances, not being in their power, or they're being siphoned by maybe unsuitable men that they're getting into relationships with. Bringing your inner masculine architecture online, like your provision, your protection, your standing up for yourself, your boundaries, your speaking your truth. All of those things will help align you to that higher timeline, because we're having another layer of this come in. So, you know, even when I talked a few months ago, oh, we're seeing feminine coming, now we're seeing masculine coming, there's always more layers of it, and there's always slightly different themes about it. So right now I'm seeing, a lot of like mission codes coming in, and then also provision, money, because we are in a cost of living crisis right now. A lot of people are being squeezed to the max. Like, people are realizing that we're existing within a debt slavery system, and we really do need a financial reset. So, you know, if you want to know more, if you don't know about how our monetary system works and how the debt slavery system works, then go and watch. There's a couple of different documentaries that you should watch. Watch Zeitgeist Addendum, the second Zeitgeist. I'm watching that at the moment. That's really good. You can watch The Crisis of Civilization as well by Dean Puckett. That goes into the whole fiat currency thing. You can watch another film called Collapse. That's a really good one. And then also there's another one called Four Horsemen. So I've seen all of those. I'm currently watching Addendum. There's more actually that I have on my list, but I just haven't watched them yet, so I'm not going to recommend them yet. But yes, because it's really important that people understand how money works if you want to get your money working for you and you want to free yourself and just prepare yourself for what's coming, okay? It's not to invoke fear or panic, but we do need to like get our asses in gear. We do need to get prepared. So, you know, like if you're just listening to people who are like, yeah, everything's going to be fine, the guardians are coming in and we're going to have this, so a new financial currency system is coming and it's going to be tied to our DNA and have no fear, that's transhumanism. Like that. And when they talk about, oh, there's the Galactic Federation are like heavily infiltrated by negative ETs that want to push the transhumanist timeline. So that's what's up. So just be very discerning about that. And, you know, I'm not telling anybody what they need to do. I know some people think that crypto is the answer. I don't necessarily think that. I think people need, personally I'm very cautious about crypto because I just think that there's too many highs and lows and you can't really like predict what's going on, and it doesn't teach you any real skills. I think, you know, learning some real skills that you can monetize in the new earth, or working on becoming sovereign. Maybe you want to like buy some land and start growing food, but again, personally I'm not sure whether that's the way forward because we really don't know what's going to be happening with different governments and things like that. Like, you know, the last few years we saw how nobody could have predicted I don't think I could have predicted that like New Zealand, Australia, Canada would be like the most tyrannical countries, almost like the Chinese Communist Party. So you know, for me, I feel safer with like heavy metal, so like gold, silver, stuff like that, putting my money in that, because I think it's going to hold its value. Fiat currency is like dropping in value every day, so whatever you can do to protect yourself is a good idea. But yes, I think I'm going to keep it there. If you want to book a session with me, then DM me on Instagram. I'm still doing the 5-session package at the current rate of 500. It's going to go up very soon though. So if you want to get in, I can't remember when did I say that I was going to put it up. I think maybe like I've got 2 more weeks until I put it up. So yeah, you've got some time to get in, to get grandfathered in at that price if you want to book a package of sessions, and we'll go into your quantum fields and clear out implants and anything that's blocking you from your highest timeline and what you're here to do. Just reach out to me. I would love to be of service to you. And yes, I will see you in the next video, guys. Peace out. One love.